Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're looking at a true story that is, well, it's deeply profound and, frankly, incredibly tragic. We're breaking down an account that essentially holds a mirror up to the absolute darkest corners of our society. The title we're working with today, drawn straight from the essence of our source material, is The Murder of Humanity and Justice. Now, just a quick heads up before we dive in, the events we're about to cover are really heavy. It's a very sobering look at a massive societal failure. So, let's just get right into it and look at exactly how this tragedy unfolds, starting with the very first lines.
A human asked for justice, but what she got was inhumanity. That right there is the core thesis of our story today. Notice how it doesn't use a name or a title, just a human, asking for something as basic as justice. But the contrast is just so immediate and stark. Instead of justice, she got the absolute opposite. It's a jarring juxtaposition, and honestly, it hooks you right from the start and establishes the emotional weight for everything we're about to discuss. Part 1. A plea for justice.
So let's look at the sheer imbalance of power here. Our source highlights exactly how extremely vulnerable she was. This all happened during the holy month of Ramadan, meaning she was fasting. And because she was fasting, she was physically weak. On top of that, completely unarmed. She absolutely did not go there looking for a fight. Keeping her extreme physical vulnerability in mind is absolutely crucial because it really magnifies the unimaginable cruelty of what happens next.
You really have to notice the psychological contrast here. On the one hand, you have her peaceful intent. She was literally just trying to resolve a land dispute. The source notes there was no anger in her eyes, just this deeply held belief in justice. She actually trusted the system, or at least she trusted the humanity of the people she was approaching. But on the other side, a terrifying reaction. She was met with absolute inhumanity by a mob that flat out refused to listen to her. It forces us to sit with this agonizing disconnect between a peaceful plea and the violent reality she walked into.
Part 2. The Holy Month's Tragedy.
Like we just said, she simply went to discuss a land problem. That's the whole thing. She was just seeking an audience for an everyday communal dispute. But her desperate cries completely fell on deaf ears. The very people who should have listened to her, who actually had the power to hear her out, just actively ignored her pleas. And really, this is that first major failure of humanity we see, that active choice to completely ignore a vulnerable person asking for help.
And from that initial silence, things escalate into a horrifying spectacle. She is tied to a pole, right in the middle of a crowd. I mean, just let that visual sink in for a second. She's immobilized, put on display, and completely surrounded by people. This wasn't something hidden away in the shadows. It happened right out in the open, in the midst of other human beings. That incredibly public nature is exactly what sets the stage for the grim climax of this whole tragedy.
Part 3. Cruelty over humanity.
This is where the brutal beating begins, but the source material frames it in a very specific way. It wasn't just this woman being attacked. Humanity itself was being killed, right there in plain sight, surrounded by a crowd. The violence isn't just seen as a crime against one individual. It's treated as an assault on the very concept of being human. With every single blow, society's heart bleeds. That's how the source describes it. The violence implicates all of us. It wasn't just her physical body battered against that pole. The very heart of our society was bleeding with every single strike. It's framed as a collective wound that damages absolutely everyone. As the assault goes on, her physical state just completely deteriorates. And remember what we talked about earlier? She was fasting. So, an agonizing thirst soon overtakes her battered body. It's this incredibly specific, visceral detail that takes all those abstract metaphors about societal failure and grounds them right back into the harsh, terrifying reality of her physical pain. "Give me some water." Those are her words. 4 simple words. It's her final, desperate plea, and honestly, it acts as a total emotional gut punch right in the middle of this horror. Stripped of everything, tied up, and beaten, she is literally just asking for the most basic element of human survival. And how does the crowd react to this incredibly basic human need? You'd think this would be the exact moment where human hearts melt with empathy, right? Like any remaining shred of decency would step in just to give her a drink. But instead, cruelty laughed. They literally laughed in the face of her agonizing suffering. It's such a chilling detail, and it perfectly highlights the terrifying absence of compassion in that crowd.
Part 4. Society's fatal silence. Now, think about exactly what was destroyed here and how incredibly fast it all happened. Shattered in seconds. A woman's dignity, a mother's life, a family's hope. Everything this woman represented, her entire universe and all the people connected to her, erased in mere moments. We really have to recognize the sheer, devastating totality of that loss. The source makes this profound point. It wasn't just her who died today. Our silence and the very mind of our society died with her. Our collective complicity, the fact that a crowd can literally just stand by and watch this happen, means society itself has lost its soul. We are all implicated by the silence that lets acts like this occur. The explainer's source leaves us with this heavy thought. This history of tears has to remain like a fire in millions of hearts. And why? So that this kind of inhumanity is never born again. Her memory is supposed to act as a catalyst. We are meant to let the anger and sorrow over this horrific injustice fuel a collective refusal to ever let something like this happen in our communities again. Why such punishment for a woman asking for justice? I really want you to think about that. She asked for a simple land dispute to be resolved. Why on earth was the response a public lethal beating? Letting that question just hang there forces us to confront the total, terrifying irrationality of this violence. Before religion, politics, and castes, why is humanity losing? We spend so much time dividing ourselves up by all these different labels, but underneath the whole shebang, our basic humanity is failing. It's an incredibly powerful, provocative question from the source to end on. It challenges every single one of us to look inward, to reflect on our own society, our priorities, and what it actually means to be human when we let justice get murdered in plain sight. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Keep reflecting on this one, and I'll see you next time.